ಬೇರೆ ಏನೋ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ರಿ.
ಅದೇನು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಏನು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀವಿ
ಸರ್ ಅದು ಸ್ಪಾರ್ಕಲ್
ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲಿಟಾ ಇಲ್ಲ 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 ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಕೇಳ್ತೀನಿ.
ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಇರ್ತೀರಾ ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಯಾರು ಹಾಂ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಬಗ್ಗೆನ ಲೂಸ್ ಕನೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಫೋರ್ ಕ್ಯಾಮಾ ತರಿಸಿದಾರಪ್ಪ
What?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But the until there it should go.
Oh my god. Now what? How will they extend?
Yeah, I think ಸರ್ ಇದು ಕೇಬಲ್ ತಂದಿದ್ದೀರಾ ದೊಡ್ಡದು? ನಿನ್ನೆ ತಗೊಂಡ್ಬರ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಂತ.
ಇಲ್ಲ ನಾನು ಯಾರ ಹತ್ರ ಏನು ಹೇಳಿಲ್ವಲ್ಲ.
20 ಮೀಟರ್ ಅಂತ
ಇದೆ. ಈಗೇನು ಬೇಕಿಲ್ಲ? ಪವರ್ ಕೇಬಲ್ ಇದೆ, ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಪವರ್ ಕೇಬಲ್ ಲಾಂಗ್
ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್ ಗುಡ್ ಮಾರ್ನಿಂಗ್
ನಮ್ಗೆಲ್ಲ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾಗ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕರ್ಸಿದ್ದೀರ ನೀವೇನೋ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಡೋದಲ್ಲ ಬೇಕಲ್ಲ ಇದು ದೊಡ್ಡದು ಕೇಬಲ್ ತಂದು ಹಾಕಿ ಮತ್ತೆ
ಕೊಡೋಣ ನೀವು
ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ನಾವು ಕರೆಸ್ತಿರೋದು
ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್ ನೀವಿದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಒಂಥರ ಆನೆ ಬಂದೈತೆ.
ಕೂಡ ಎಷ್ಟು 20 ಮೀಟರ್ ಇದು ಆಡಿಯೋ ಕನ್ಸಲ್ ಇದೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಪವರ್ ಕೇಬಲ್ ಏನು ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಆ ಪವರ್ ಅಂದರೆ ನಿಮಗೆ
बट वो इतना इधर आके बात करते हैं ऐसे अलग तरह की
सही सही ये कोई ना
Sir, once we are connected, I just want a link.
Sure. This is the link. I'll share that.
Okay. Thank you so much. Do you want something? Water?
No. I'll share on the web. Mail. This is yours. Your mail ID.
Yeah, you can.
ಇಲ್ಲ ಹೊಸ ಕರ್ಕೊಂಡು ತಗೊಂಡ ಇದೇನು ಟ್ರೈನ್ ಇತ್ತು
ಅವರೇ ನಾನೇ ತರ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು
Safety pins are with.
Whatever the recording.
Thank you so much, sir.
I have exam going down.
Thank you. You give me your number in case. Tarun has your number.
Karan ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ.
ಹಾಂ ಸರ್ ನೋಡಿದೆ ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ
ಲಿಂಕಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿದ್ರಾ?
ಲಿಂಕಿನ ಮಾಡಿ
ಲಿಂಕ್ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಕಡೆ.
Huh, I am sharing.
ಲಿಂಕ್ ಇಸ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್
Huh.
ಲಿಂಕಲ್ಲಿ
I've
ಹಾಕಿದ್ರೆ
just shared it with you.
you can click ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು.
You have to keep it open on YouTube. Keep your phone on silent. Okay.
ಈಗೇನು ಮಾಡೋದು ಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ.
ನಿಮ್ಮ ಲಿಂಕ್ ಕಳಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಮೇಡಮ್
ಹೌದು.
ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊತೀನಿ ಇದು ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾ
ಬರ್ತದೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ. ಇವ್ರಿಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ ಮನೆಯೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಿಮ್ಮಲ್ಲೇ ನೋಡಿ ನಿಮ್ಮಲ್ಲೇ ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಮೊಬೈಲಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ. ಮೊಬೈಲಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ. ಹಾಂ ಬರ್ತದೆ.
ಯಾಕೆ ಒಂದು ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್
Check, check.
I request the dignitaries and the audience to please raise for the Nadagite.
जय भारत जननीय तनुजाते, जय हे कर्नाटक माते, जय भारत जननीय तनुजाते, जय हे कर्नाटक माते, जय सुंदर नदी वनಗಳ ನಾಡೆ, जय हे रस ಋಷಿಗಳ ಬೀಡೆ, जय भारत जननीय तनुजाते, जय हे कर्नाटक माते. ಭೂದೇವಿಯ ಮಕುಟದ ನವಮಣಿಯೇ, ಗಂಧದ ಚಂದದ ಹೊನ್ನಿನ ಗಣಿಯೇ, ರಾಘವ ಮಧುಸೂದನರವತರಿಸಿದ ಭಾರತ ಜನನಿಯ ತನುಜಾತೆ, ಜಯ ಭಾರತ ಜನನಿಯ ತನುಜಾತೆ, ಜಯ ಹೇ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಮಾತೆ. ಜನನಿಯ ಜೋಗುಳ ವೇದದ ಘೋಷ, ಜನನಿಗೆ ಜೀವವು ನಿನ್ನಾವೇಶ, ಹಸುರಿನ ಗಿರಿಗಳ ಸಾಲೆ, ನಿನ್ನಯ ಕೊರಳಿನ ಮಾಲೆ, ಕಪಿಲ ಪತಂಜಲ ಗೌತಮ ಜಿನನುತ ಭಾರತ ಜನನಿಯ ತನುಜಾತೆ, ಜಯ ಭಾರತ ಜನನಿಯ ತನುಜಾತೆ, ಜಯ ಹೇ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಮಾತೆ. ಸರ್ವ ಜನಾಂಗದ ಶಾಂತಿಯ ತೋಟ, ರಸಿಕರ ಕಂಗಳ ಸೆಳೆಯುವ ನೋಟ, ಹಿಂದೂ ಕ್ರೈಸ್ತ ಮುಸಲ್ಮಾನ, ಪಾರಸೀಕ ಜೈನರು ಧ್ಯಾನ, ಜನಕನ ಹೋಲುವ ದೊರೆಗಳ ಧಾಮ, ಗಾಯಕ ವೈರಿಕರ ರಾಮ. ಕನ್ನಡ ನುಡಿ ಕುಣಿದಾಡುವ ಗೇಹ, ಕನ್ನಡ ತಾಯಿಯ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ದೇಹ, ಕನ್ನಡ ನುಡಿ ಕುಣಿದಾಡುವ ಗೇಹ, ಕನ್ನಡ ತಾಯಿಯ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ದೇಹ. ಜಯ ಭಾರತ ಜನನಿಯ ತನುಜಾತೆ, ಜಯ ಹೇ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಮಾತೆ, ಜಯ ಸುಂದರ ನದಿ ವನಗಳ ನಾಡೆ, ಜಯ ಹೇ ರಸ ಋಷಿಗಳ ಬೀಡೆ, ಜಯ ಭಾರತ ಜನನಿಯ ತನುಜಾತೆ, ಜಯ ಹೇ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಮಾತೆ.
I would request our Honorable President, Shri Rajgopal Naidu sir, and our Secretary, Shri Leela Shankar Rao sir, to kindly lead the Chief Guest to light the lamp to inaugurate the function.
भजत अखिलः चेत्री, मैत्रीं भजत अखिलः चेत्री, मैत्रीं भजत अखिलः चेत्री. आत्मवदेव पराणपि पश्यत, आत्मवदेव पराणपि पश्यत, युक्तं जेत्रीं मैत्रीं भजत अखिलजेत्रीं जननी पृथ्वी कामदुगास्ते जननी पृथ्वी कामदुगास्ते जनको देवः सकलदयालु जनको देवः सकलदयालु दाम्यतदत्ता दयत्वं जनता दाम्यदत्ता दयत्वं जनता श्रेयो भूयात् सकलजनानां श्रेयो भूयात् सकलजनानां श्रेयो भूयात् सकलजनानां श्रेयो भूयात् सकलजनानां श्रेयो भूयात् सकलजनानां
Thank you for the wonderful rendition of the innovation. The song was composed to foster international peace and brotherhood. So we thought in today's world, this would be an apt way of starting our program with this prayer song. Chairman of the Construction Committee. So welcome, sir. Shri T.N. Manjunath, Chairman of the Environment Committee. Welcome for this august occasion, sir. Shri G. Ramana Babu, Director. Welcome, sir. Shri G. V. Ramesh, Director. Welcome for this function, sir. Shri V. Ramesh Kumar, Director. So please welcome. And Shri P. Prabhakar Naidu, welcome for this august function, sir. May I now request our President, Gopal Naidu, to present a bouquet to our chief guest as a matter of our welcoming the chief guest to the function. I request the CEO, Kammavari Sangam Group of Institutions, Dr. KVA Balaji, to present a bouquet to our President, Shri R. Rajgopal Naidu, inviting him to our function. May I invite our Professor, Architect Satyaprakash Varanasi, to invite all the dignitaries by offering them a rose to each of them. To Dr. M. Rukmangana Naidu, sir, welcome. B. Lokananda Naidu, our Vice President, please welcome, sir. Shri R. Leela Shankar Rao, our Honorary Secretary. Welcome, sir. Shri Neerajakshala Naidu, our Treasurer. Welcome, sir. Shri A.V. Nagaraj, our Chairman, Hostel Committee. Sorry, Construction. Shri T.N. Manjunath, Chairman, Environment Committee. Welcome, sir. Shri G. Ramana Babu, Director. Sir, welcome. Shri G. V. Ramesh, Director. Welcome, sir. Shri V. Ramesh Kumar. Welcome, sir. Shri M. Yogamurthy, our Internal Auditor. Welcome, sir. Shri P. Prabhakar Naidu, Director. Welcome, sir. I now request our Honorary President, Shri R. Rajgopal Naidu, and Honorary Secretary, Shri Leela Shankar Rao, and Shri B. Lokananda Naidu to facilitate our chief guest. Shanmuga? Huh? Check bitter and they bring 1 minute. They'll be there. for the shawl. Thank you, sir, for the honoring. Our parent organization, Kammavari Sangam, established in the year 1952, has been set up with the noble commitment to serve the society through enabling education for the needy. Towards this, the first institution, KS Polytechnic, was established. Subsequently, the KS Institute of Technology and later the KS School of Engineering and Management has also been established. In the year 2115, our management took a decision step to establish the KS School of Architecture. Apart from these institutions, the Sangham has facilitated in numerous ways setting up of free hostel for young and needy students and medical facilities and other such support facilities for the needy. The attitude of the founding members is carried forward till today by the directors and various members of the Sangam to take forward the dream of giving back to the society from which almost all our Sangam directors have contributed immensely from their own personal earnings. The KS School of Architecture has been the youngest in these institutions, starting in the year 2015, and we have had two who have passed out from our institution of late. At this point, I should acknowledge the contribution of Dr. Vijayalakshmi Akhila, Professor and Head, Department of Civil Engineering, KSSEM, for having done the initial facilitation and support for the establishment of the KS School of Architecture. Over the years, our school has maintained an average pass percentage of 95% at the VTU examinations, with an average of about 2 to 3 students holding the top 10 university ranks since the batch 2016. Friends, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome this august gathering on the first combined graduation day of our young school. Institutions are not built just in brick and mortar. It requires a sincere vision and commitment to bring the vision into action. And this has been achieved through a sustained teamwork of dedicated individuals, ably and fully supported by our management team. Realizing the magnitude of the responsibility, our team got into the efforts of building this vision for ourselves. In this endeavor, it was not just the management and the principal who were involved. It was a joint effort by the team of faculty and the students, and a couple of architect intellectuals who helped us setting our vision and mission. Our commitment to the 3 C's, culture, climate, and cost, was the outcome of these deliberations. We set out to achieve this commitment as a team with hope and sincerity. At the outset, we laid out our teaching pedagogy by adopting the following methodologies: learning from the known to the unknown by analyzing, familiar to reach the unfamiliar by observing, from real to theorize the abstract, learning by dialoguing, class not just as a monologue by the teacher, but with students' participations, with scope for detailed and in-depth discussions. Learning from preaching, teaching focuses on knowledge, preaching shares wisdom, and teaching informs while preaching advises. Learning from multiple modes through studio projects, theories, quiz sessions, and group discussion has been our forte. Towards this, we prepare to design for new generations a culturally appropriate, climatically conforming, and cost-wise conscious set of professionals for the society. To prepare and face challenges, creativity unbound. Prepare to face the market competition in construction quality. Prepare to be updated, conscious search for solutions. And to prepare to face market competition and prepare to be updated, conscious search and learning and absorption. Strenuous efforts were put by the faculty to confirm our mission to the prescribed VTU syllabus. Our management from their side facilitated us with this spacious building in order that our students grow in a conducive environment. All who have achieved university ranks have gone through this facility that has been provided by our management. The documentation work by the 2015 batch students achieved the COA Excellence Award for heritage documentation and documentation of individual buildings. Our student Suraj Karwasa's thesis project has won COA Excellence Award under Zone 4 for architectural project in cultural corridor categories. The 2016-17 batch students' works undertaken during their study tours have also won COA national awards under different categories and zones. While many of our graduating students are working with reputed architectural firms, some of them are pursuing higher education, and the few entrepreneurial types have already started picking up projects for themselves. Finally, it's our endeavor to achieve academic excellence and contribute well-trained architects who will work with professionalism and ethics for the beneficial development of the society. At this point, it gives me my honor and pleasure to give a brief introduction of our chief guest, Chandavarkar. Architect Prem Chandavarkar is the managing partner of CNT Architects, an award-winning and widely published architectural practice based in Bangalore, India. He received his training from SPA Delhi in the year 1978 and went on to do research-based master's degree in architecture from the University of Oregon, the USA, in the year 1982, where he wrote a thesis on the linguistic analogy in architectural theory. He is the former executive director of Srishti Manipal Institute of Art, Design and Technology in Bengaluru and is an academic advisor and guest faculty at Indian and International Colleges of Architecture. In 2016, the curator of the Centenary National Convention of the Indian Institute of Architects on the theme, Imagining the Indian Cities. Besides his design practice in CNT, he writes, lectures, and blogs on architecture, urbanism, philosophy, politics, education, environment, art, and cultural studies. That is the giant of an architect whom we have today amidst us as our chief guest. Welcome, sir. May I now request the chief guest, architect Prem Chandavarkar, to give away the special category awards to our students. I call upon the selected students to receive the COA Special Category Awards. Winners of the Zonal Jury COA Students Award for Excellence in Documentation of Architectural Heritage 2021. In Architectural Heritage category for Sashan Gram, Orissa, 2017 batch. The team of students include Nitya Niranjan, Dhruval R, Giri R, Sanjana K.A., Sashi Kumar, Purnima Adiga, Yukta P, Apeksha, Munisha, and Nitish Prajwal. The winners at the zonal jury, COA Students Award for Excellence in Documentation of Architectural Heritage 2021 in Indigenous Dwellings. Balachannavalase Halli Tottimane 2019 batch. The team of students who contributed into this includes Sanjana S., Aditya V. Salin, Harshita, Tarun, Hitaishi, Anil Kumar, Rakshita, Mayuri, Kushal, Sahiruti, and Lohita. Intac Heritage Awards for Excellence in Documentation of Unprotected Heritage 2018. House Documentation at Atankudi Chettinad 2015 batch. The team includes Banu Krishna, Chaitra, Aishwarya, Mayur, Pavan, Nishchita, and Samanna. We also have the Zonal Presenter in Architecture Thesis Project at COA National Awards for Excellence in Architecture Thesis 2021. Our student Suraj Karwasra has backed the award. Student Suraj is working in Delhi, so he's not able to reach. Apart from the students who received the national level awards, we have also identified students who have done outstanding performances during their academic program. 2015 batch, outstanding student S. Nischita. Co-curricular and leadership, Pavan K.M., Mayur P., and Aishwarya Dinakar. The Best Thesis Award for the 2015 batch goes to S. Nischita. The 2016 batch, outstanding student Manali Patel. Co-curricular and leadership, Hoysala HP and Sanjana BS. Best Thesis Award goes to Manali Patel. Thank you, sir. I call upon our president to order the candidates be presented for their degrees.
Let the candidates be presented for degrees.
Graduates of Bachelor of Architecture 2015 batch, please stand up. I call upon the 2015 batch graduates to receive your certificates. I request our President, Shri R. Rajgopal Naidu, sir, to give away the degree certificates. Aishwarya Ji, Banu Krishna, you can be here. Banu, come up. Chaitra M. Okay, sir. Okay, I'll check. Sir, thank you, sir. May I request our Vice President, Dr. M. Rukmangada Naidu, to give away the degree certificates to Aishwarya Dinakar. Sir, if you can please join with the... Kavya Naidu. Sir, wait. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. May I request our... You please be here, because you would like to be with you, all our students. I request our Vice President, Shri B. Lokanath Naidu, to give away the degree certificate, to Mayur P. Mayur, go a little inside. Nisarga MK. Nisha N. Thank you, sir. May I now request our Honorary Secretary, Shri P. Leela Shankar Rao, to give away the degree certificates to Pallavi V. Umayma will not say. Why Umayma? Pavan KM. Pratima M. Kashyap. Thank you, sir. May I now request our Joint Secretary, Shri V. Rajendra Naidu. Oh, sorry, sir. Our Joint Secretary, Shri. Oh, okay. Our Treasurer, Shri Neerajakshalu Naidu, sir, to give away the certificates to Miss Nischita. Miss Shri Divya, not come. Miss Samanna Guruprasad. Miss Shravani R. Miss Shravya G. Miss S. Saumya. Miss Sunidhi N. Prasad. Miss Soumya Shri. Thank you, sir. Mr. President, the 2015 batch graduates for the degree of Bachelors in Architecture are presented, and all the remaining graduates of Bachelor of Architecture are presented in absentia. These graduates have been awarded their respective degrees by the Vishveshwaraya Technological University. May I now request the graduates of Bachelor of Architecture 2016 batch to come over to the dais to receive their certificates. I request our internal auditor, Shri M. Yogamurthy sir, to give away their degree certificates to Miss Akshaya Nandini, Miss Anagha Prakash, Miss Apeksha Prabhu, Mr. Bhargava V. Mr. Hoysala HP. And Miss Indraja RM. Thank you, sir. May I now request Chairman Building Committee Shri A.V. Nagaraj to give away the degree certificates to Ms. M. Dikshita, Manali Patel, Mukta Singh S. Nandana N.R. Naresh B. And Nitin S. Thank you, sir. May I now request Chairman Environment Committee, Shri T.N. Manjunath, to give away the degree certificates to Miss Pooja S. Not there. Pragati KV. Pragnya Mukunda. Not come. Prakriti P. Thank you, sir. May I now request our director, Shri G.V. Ramesh, to give away the degree certificates to Pramod is not. Miss Pratyusha. Miss Sanchita. Thank you, sir. May I now request our director, Shri, sorry, sir, Shri Ramana Babu, sir, to please give away the degree certificates to Sanjana. Suraj is not there. What is your full name? Japan. Miss Saria Banu. Thank you, sir. So may I now request our director, Mr. Ramesh, to kindly give away the degree certificates to Mr. Amar. Thank you, sir. May I now request our director, Mr. Prabhakar Naidu, to please give away the certificates to Mr. Suhas. Thank you, sir. Mr. President, the 2016 batch graduates for the degree of Bachelor in Architecture are presented, and all the remaining graduates of Bachelor of Architecture are presented in absentia. Those graduates have been awarded their respective degrees by the Vishveshwaraya Technological University, Belagavi. I request Professor K.V.A. Balaji, Chief Executive Officer, Case Group of Institutions, to administer the oath.
Graduates who have received their degrees, please stand up and repeat the oath after I read it. Please raise your hands. Please raise your hands. I will lead and uplift life, sincerely performing duties enjoined upon me by my profession. I will dedicate my life to safeguard the dignity and honor of my profession. I solemnly pledge to uphold and respect the ideals of the Constitution and strive to fulfill them. I will respect the rule of law and endeavor to fulfill the ideals enshrined thereunder. I will take active part in social transformation, ignoring all considerations of religion, race, sex, or nationality. Please.
Mr. President, I request you to declare the graduation day closed.
I declare the graduation day closed.
Thank you, sir. May I now request our chief guest, Architect Prem Chandawakar, to deliver the keynote address.
Thank you. I am deeply honored and privileged to be here as the chief guest and deliver the convocation address for the first convocation of this institution. And I wish it all the best for the future. What I'd like to speak to you about today is not something usually mentioned within the mainstream of formal, modern, professional education in architecture. Perhaps it receives passing mention in classes on the history of architecture, but is rarely assigned any fundamental role within design studio or any of the core of modern architectural education. I'd like to talk about the sacred, particularly the architect as a sacred self. Don't worry, I'm not going to talk about religion, which I accept should be kept out of education. The reasons demanding this separation are far too complex to go into today, but I assure you my speaking of the sacred does not involve proselytizing any form of religion or religious belief. What we conventionally understand as religion and the sacred are not the same. I refer to the sacred as a transcendental realm that is far greater than you while echoing your innermost being, thereby offering you anchors of purpose. It imparts meaning to our lives, is the life force of great architecture, and it does not require any surrender to blind faith, for it can be known directly as tangible reality. If you do not understand the difference between the public face of organized religion and the sacred, to keep religion out of education, we wind up sanitizing the sacred out of education and consequently out of our lives. And this is a tremendous, tremendous loss, because the sacred is not some abstract entity out there. It is a core part of your very being. For you, each one of you is inherently sacred. Let me explain what I mean by that by borrowing the words of 4 wise men. Since we are all architects here, the wise man I will start with is the great architect Louis Kahn, who said, I quote, "A great building must begin with the immeasurable, must go through measurable means when it is being designed, and in the end must be unmeasured." How can one design an architecture of this kind? It seems to require conquering a paradoxical riddle, learning to know, perhaps even measure the immeasurable. The resolution of this paradox comes from acknowledging that the immeasurable is not something that can be delineated intellectually, but it can be discovered and known experientially. I'm sure each one of you has encountered what I have, moments of being silenced into humility and wonder by experiencing great architecture. It may have come from historical architecture, such as Padmanabhapuram Palace, the Alhambra, Fatehpur Sikri, or the Notre Dame Cathedral. It may have come from more modern acts of design, such as Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water, Jeffrey Bawa's Lunuganga, Charles Corrier's Gandhi Smarak Sangrahalaya, or Carlos Scarpa's Querini Stampalia Foundation. In each of these places, the architecture emanates an aura, a term the dictionary defines as the distinctive atmosphere or quality that seems to surround and be generated by a person, thing, or place. You would be hard-pressed to understand this aura intellectually or define it in words. Yet it is a tangible presence whose tangibility is demonstrated by the fact that companions who share this experience with you are similarly possessed and moved by it. One finds the same mode governing the primordial facets of life that make it worthwhile: love, joy, beauty, wonder, to name but a few. You feel constrained in intellectually understanding or describing them, yet when you experience them, you know them as unquestionable manifest reality. There is an inner wisdom within you, far removed from the abstractions of intellectualism, inserted into you by the very fact of your birth,
that intuitively recognizes and knows these transcendental realms of life. These realms are immeasurable, they offer you meaning and purpose, and the mystical union you strike with them reveals that both they and your inner wisdom are inherently sacred. The second wise man I wish to cite is not an artist or architect, not a theologian, not a philosopher, but a hardcore scientist, the physicist and mathematician Brian Greene, who said in an interview, I quote, "My view from the perspective of what we are as physical beings is nothing but collections of particles that are fully governed by the laws of physics. Colloquially, we are bags of particles that have a particular organization that allows for certain biological functions to take place, and that's all we are." Now, some would say, well, if that's your view of who we are, then you've already eliminated any possibility for meaning or value or purpose. You've denigrated the very nature of what it means to be human. And my view is exactly the opposite. My view is the very fact that collections of particles can do the kinds of things that we can do, the fact that you and I can have this conversation, the fact that an Einstein can work out the laws of general relativity, the fact that a Shakespeare can write King Lear, the fact that a Beethoven can compose the Ode to Joy finale to the Ninth Symphony, the fact that particles governed by physical law can do all of that, that to me is the wonder of it all. That to me is where it's thrilling. The concept of purpose doesn't come from the universe, it comes from us human beings. The concept of value, it's invented by us human beings. And so the fact that we are bags of particles only accentuates how spectacular it is that we can even have this conversation about value and meaning. And it focuses our attention, in my view, in the right direction, which is inward as opposed to outward, end quote. What Brian Greene points out to us is quite mind-boggling. We are just a bundle of physical elements governed by physical law. Yet somehow this physical collective mysteriously coheres into a consciousness that can dream, ideate, love, create, wonder, and so much more. We cannot understand how this happens. Science, for all its accomplishments, has made little progress in offering an explanation. All we can do is gratefully acknowledge this gift and revel in its grace. The third wise man I cite today is the late Irish philosopher, poet, and one-time priest, John O'Donoghue. In a delightful collection titled Walking on the Pastures of Wonder, he points out that the creative consciousness we have been blessed with need not be thought of primarily in terms of great accomplishments of the likes of Beethoven, Einstein, or Picasso. It is something each and every one of us personifies in ordinary, everyday acts of creative artistry that are so routine we cease to notice the power they represent, even though they embody a creative force that brings forth new forms of life. O'Donoghue invokes the act of speaking, whose miracle is revealed in how we coax sound and meaning out of silence. I reflected on this observation by O'Donoghue, and so many other examples of everyday creative genius came spontaneously to my mind. I walk, and out of stillness I coax purpose. I focus my gaze, and out of the blur of background I coax significance. I laugh, and out of the mundane I coax joy. I love, and out of solitude I coax community and conviviality. I dance, and out of indifference I coax rapture. I sing, and out of sound I coax melody. I think, and out of chaos I coax order. Each of these everyday acts births new life into being, opens up new realms of possibility. And the fact that they are everyday acts shows us that this sacred and creative energy is inherent to every one of us, allowing us to find resonances with each other and the world we inhabit, to jointly weave wider nets of significance that we can joyfully and imaginatively share. This innate creative capacity we hold within us is so powerful, and the terrain of potential it opens up is so vast that most of us get overwhelmed by its power, turning away from it to grasp onto external anchors of certainty that we stumble across. O'Donoghue remarks, I quote, "One of the sad things today is that so many people are frightened by the wonder of their own presence. They are dying to tie themselves into a system, a role, or to an image, or to a predetermined identity that other people have actually settled on for them." End quote. And the fourth wise man I turn to is Soetsu Yanagi, a scholar of Japanese craft. He said there are two ways of making your place in the world. The first is the way of self-power, where you aim for self-reliance through your internal capacities. Yanagi says this is by far the harder of the two ways, but it is the way we are conventionally schooled to treat the world as a frontier that we must conquer by developing our own capacities. And while it is possible to do that, it is really an option available only to a privileged few who have been blessed at birth with genius or the necessary character traits. But hope is not lost to the masses not born with such privilege, for there is another and easier way, the way of other power, in which one relies on an external power or grace. Yanagi says the way of self-power is like climbing a mountain, where you have to work hard to develop the muscles of your body and acquire the skills of mountaineering. Whereas the way of other power is like a sailboat that uses the grace of the wind to fill its sails, to glide forward with comparatively little effort. Modern art and design is conventionally taught by asking students to deploy the way of self-power, whereas traditional craft operates by the way of other power and is able to achieve an average level of artistic quality that modern art or design has never equaled. The sacred core within you offers you the way of other power, becoming the wind that will fill your sails and propel you through this world. Sadly, the modern system of education is designed to make you look away from your sacred core and rely on self-power. It privileges intellectualism above other modes of learning, drives students towards validation through external reference, and demands their acceptance of assessment of their competence through judgments made by others using measures uniformly applicable to all. The way the system works to suppress our inner sacred creativity can be discerned if you look back to your childhood and how your mode of learning has changed over the years. If you really want to see the innate capacity to learning in its true sense, go for a walk with a preschool child. It may be a route often traversed, yet every object, every sight along it will be a source of wonder, a provocation to embodied exploration by touching, commenting, and incessantly asking why, what. Every child is born with a visible and energetic capacity to wonder. Why do we lose it later in life? In the early years of primary education, where the pressures of standardized testing are not so prevalent, this wonder is encouraged. Modes of learning tap it through storytelling, drawing, making, and other forms of embodied explorations. The teacher is a facilitator whose task is to constructively steer this innate energy of the curious and wonder-filled child. But by middle school, under the guise of there being a world, a reality that one must deal with and adjust to, the focus shifts from internal wonder to external reference. Art and storytelling as modes of discovery fall by the wayside. Focus shifts outward to a predefined syllabus, a word that acquires a weight as though it is worthy of a reverence that must never be questioned. Measures and assessment become uniform for all. The externalization of reference towards a syllabus renders the students as passive recipients of instruction, and the teacher becomes the center of power in the classroom. This process reaches its zenith in high school with the suffocating demands of board examinations. And by this time, most of us succumb to a conditioning that teaches us to fear the wonder of our own presence. There is some respite on entering architecture school, where the centrality of design studio is meant to give you space for your own creativity, offering some relief from external demands. But even well-meaning architecture schools wind up being constrained by centralized regulations that come from the same logic as the regulation I described in the middle and high school system. And it is rare that architecture school teaches you that the source of your creativity is the sacred core within you. Creativity winds up becoming an unanchored and unmapped terrain of subjectivity, susceptible to easy seduction by the dominating fashions or ideologies of the time, and suffocation by external references returns, even if it was not imposed at the outset. My appeal to you today, as you leave college to explore a wider and more complex world, is to recognize your sacred core and live a life that revels in its wonder and grace. Build on how it allows you to know the immeasurable as reality and subsequently channel it into your work. Salute how it magically empowers you to navigate a world beyond physical law. Celebrate how it reveals itself in ordinary everyday acts. Allow it to be the wind that fills your sails. I must warn you that this is not easy. There is a great deal of hard work to be done. The modus operandi of this work is not intellectualism. It comes from a wisdom that gradually emerges from embodied practice. Indian tradition refers to this form of practice as sadhana, and it has three components. First, recognize that the search for the sacred starts within you. Second, grant yourself substantive and daily doses of quiet, contemplative time so that you may hear your subtle inner voice without it being drowned by the cacophony of external distraction and temptation. While you are doing this, remember this voice is sacred, and you must therefore allow it to speak free from the exhortations of seductions of your ego. And third, be rigorous yet patient in your practice, for it will slowly build and expand your sacred presence, and you must wait for this process to unfold. As your sadhana increases your sensitivity to the sacred, you will start to notice things you did not see before because you were either not looking for them or did not have the training to see them. You will find that other people, even if they do not realize it, inherently embody the same sacred spirit as you. You will discern the sacred in nature. You will learn to recognize its qualities within materials such as wood or stone. And you can then seek to bring all these qualities in the architecture you create so that it offers new configurations, new possibilities of the sacred. Your empathy with the sacred spirit of those who will inhabit your architecture will compel you to offer, say, spatial manifestations of that spirit. Your empathy with the sacred in nature and materials will compel you towards respect for and harmony with the physical and ecological world. And when this happens, you will realize that great architecture does not become great by first conceiving an idea and then communicating that idea through form. Architecture becomes great by conceiving a configuration that unleashes the spiritual potential of material reality, offering you of a communion with the sacred universe. There may have been a history of philosophy that affected the creation of the architecture, but that ceases to be of relevance, for communion transcends communication and is beyond history, words, or concepts. You may argue that this is an idealistic and unrealistic dream, for the world is captured by selfishness, ego, politics, and material greed, and therefore unreceptive to the sacred realm I speak of. To this concern, I offer 4 observations. First, your sacred core is accessible only to you. Nobody else, whatever their power may be, can touch it. If you give yourself the time and effort, nobody can interfere with how you nurture this core. Second, it is a patient process rather than a radical transformation, dependent on a continuing conversation between your inner wisdom and an outer world, where each critiques and validates the other. So just keep that conversation going. Third, your goal is not to change the world. Stay within your circle of influence rather than getting paralyzed by a wider circle of concern. Let your aim in each project be modest. Let your aim in each project be modest, seeking to carve out a small and quiet refuge for the sacred that grants it space to endure amongst the chaos, cacophony, and crassness of the world. And persist in this quest so that gradually others get infected by the sacred and feel driven to do what you do. And fourth, remember that you are a unique being. A person exactly like you has never existed before in history and never will. Your voice is unique, and an architecture you design will be different from what anyone else designs. Yet your sacred core reflects a universal spirit. So when you channel that sacred spirit into the unique architecture you create, you are facilitating the daily rebirth of the universal in a fresh form every day. This continued rebirth of the universal within unique expressions is what life is all about. And you are a link in a sacred chain of being, a responsibility that you must come to terms with. Moving toward a conclusion, let me place before you the famous poem titled Fear by Khalil Gibran. It is said that before entering the sea, a river trembles with fear. She looks back at the path she has traveled from the peaks of the mountains, the long winding road crossing forests and villages. And in front of her, she sees an ocean so vast that to enter there seems nothing more than to disappear forever. But there is no other way. The river cannot go back. Nobody can go back. To go back is impossible in existence. The river needs to take the risk of entering the ocean, because only then will fear disappear, because that's where the river will know it's not about disappearing into the ocean, but of becoming the ocean. This poem's metaphors define you as the river and the ocean as the sacred. I would take Gibran's propositions a step further by saying that if the river is in touch with her authentic self, she will know right from her source that she is the ocean, will hear the call of the ocean to unify with him, and her life must be a quest to heed this call, a quest from which she can never turn back. That is why a profession is often referred to as a calling, and if architecture is to be your calling, you must make the effort to know and hear the authentic voice that calls you. That voice will not reveal everything immediately, but your continued response to its call will eventually unveil the magic within and around you. To persist in heeding this call when all is not immediately apparent requires faith. Remember Rabindranath Tagore's definition of faith as the bird that feels the light and sings when the dawn is still dark. The voice of your inner sacred core is the light that you can feel. This light will energize you in a way that no other force can. And if you listen carefully, you will come to know that your inner light comes from a source that powers the universe, a sun that is not visible at the moment, for it has not risen as yet. But because inner light and universal source are the same, you can be that bird that feels the light and sings when the dawn is still dark, for you know within you that the dawn will definitely come, bringing forth a unique rebirth of the universal. So I wish you well in your sacred journey. May you always feel your inner light and be energized by it. May you always hear your inner voice. May you always revel in the wonder of your own presence. And may you always spontaneously and joyously sing in the dark, because your inner light grants you the illumination to know the dawn will certainly come, not just once, but every day of your life. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It was a very illuminating, sacred talk. Touched our hearts and minds. I'm sure our young architects over here will ponder over, I'm sure, many of the points that you guided them into may be a little beyond their thinking power today. But I'm sure in our school we have kind of also exposed and introduced them to such concepts. I'm sure they will start pondering and working towards achieving sacred architecture and sacredness within themselves. Thank you very much, sir. Mr. President, may I request you to declare the graduation day ceremony closed.
I declare this graduation day ceremony is closed.
Thank you, sir. So first you will lead, sir. You will lead a national anthem and then we will. National anthem, who sing? No, they'll stand. All of them must stand.
नायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
May I request President sir to please lead the. Yes, sir. We others will all follow in the reverse order.